Hi, welcome to Hashtag Crack the Boats, and in this video we are going to be looking at a thorough explanation for the chapter Julius Caesar from your English textbook. But this is not going to be any ordinary explanation. We are going to be looking at it with the help of an acronym. So let's start off with C, which stands for Calpurnia's dream, and also how Caesar gets convinced to step out of his house. Now Calpurnia is Caesar's wife, and she has had a very bad dream at night. She has dreamed that in the streets lions are whelping, ghosts are moving around, and there's a big statue of Caesar which is spouting with blood at many places. So she does not want Caesar to step out of the house. But Caesar says that such omens are for the world in general, and they don't make any difference for a person like Caesar. So it shows you that Caesar was a very, very confident person. But somehow Calpurnia manages to convince him to stay at home, and this is also because of the servant coming in and telling that the priests had opened the entrails of an offering, and they had found no heart within a beast, which means that he must not step out of the house. Even then Caesar was a little reluctant, saying that danger can never overpower him. He is much more powerful than danger itself. But somehow Calpurnia after that begs in front of him, and he says, okay, I will stay at home. But then a twist comes into the play, and that is when Decius Brutus enters the scene. And when he enters the scene, then he somehow convinces Caesar to go to the Senate house to get coronated. And how does he do that? He says that the dream, Calpurnia's dream, has not been interpreted correctly by you. It's been misinterpreted. That's what has been used here. And why? Because blood spouting from your statue means that Romans will bathe their handkerchiefs in it, and it means that they will enjoy, the privilege of being citizens under you, and it shows that how powerful you are. So it is being interpreted in a wrong manner, and it is actually a good omen. So you must come out and go for the coronation. So then Caesar gets even more, charged up and confident, and says, now that you have said this, Calpurnia, I hope you understand how foolish your dream was. I will go for the coronation. I will go to the Senate house. And the Decius Brutus collects all his friends up, and they all begin to go to the Senate house. That is where A happens, and that is the assassination. So as all of them, Cinna, Casca, Brutus, that's now Marcus Brutus has also come in, all of them begin to go towards the Senate house. They had another plan in mind. They began to request Caesar to release Metellus Cimber's brother, that is Publius Cimber. But Caesar was reluctant to do so. He said that he has been punished, and since he has been punished for performing a wrong deed, he needs to be in the jail. He cannot come out. And so when he says that he's fixed like the Northern Star and he would not change his decision, he is killed by all the other conspirators. It was Casca who first stabbed him, and after that even Brutus did. So his last sentence, a very famous one, was Et tu Brute, you too Brutus, because he had a lot of faith in Marcus Brutus. He was a very close and loyal friend of his, that's what he believed, but he turned out to be the one who killed him. And then there were a lot of uproars over there. Everyone was saying liberty, enfranchisement, finally democracy has been bestowed. But why did they kill Caesar? The reason given by Marcus Brutus was because he was ambitious. Because in his wanting to become more ambitious, he had made many people slaves, and he had actually not followed democratic traditions. So that's why A also stands for ambition. Now let's come to E. And this is the entry of Mark Antony, a very important part of this play. So when Mark Antony makes his entry, he sees Caesar's body lying over there and the conspirators around. He is absolutely shocked, because he is a very loyal friend of Caesar, and now he had lost him. So he is very shocked, and somehow the other conspirators want to make friendship and alliances with Mark Antony. And Antony also handles the situation very well. Even though he initially puts some blame on the conspirators, but later he accepts it, saying that I can get a position in your future government, but I want to give a speech in his funeral tomorrow. And so the deal is fixed, and they go on, and he goes on to give a speech that changes the whole situation. Now let's come to S, and that is the speech of Marcus Brutus. And this happened the very next day, and the speech actually made the crowd very, very agitated against Caesar. He gave the reason saying that I love Caesar, but I love Rome more. How many bondmen are here who would want that they would stay slaves for the rest of their lives? Rather, they become freedmen and they begin to enjoy a lot of freedoms. So that was the reason he gave. He gave a very short speech, but that also captivated the audience. But when we come to A, that is where the story changes. It is Antony's remarkable and fabulous speech that changes the course of the play. So before we look at Antony's wonderful speech, we need to also look at what happened beforehand. When Antony was all alone with Caesar's body, he told Caesar's body that I can foresee that the conditions in the future in Rome would be devastating. There will be civil war, there will be crisis, mothers will be weeping with their children, there will be lots and lots of problems because of this serial error committed by the conspirators headed by Brutus, right? So he had told that to him, and then he came onto the stage, he ascended up the pulpit, and he started his speech. And he gave it in a very tactful manner. So he said initially, he called Brutus and the other conspirators honorable men. And that was because just to assuage their feelings, because at that point of time, they were having a lot of respect for Brutus. And he slowly wanted to remove that respect, and he did that very, very smartly. So how did he do that? He first told them that Caesar was a person who had brought many captives home. When the poor cried, he also wept. And the fact that Antony himself had presented him the crown thrice, but he had refused to take it, right? It shows his humility. He said that ambition should be made of sterner stuff. But I respect the decision made by the honorable men. They would have done for some reason. So you could see how smartly he was trying to provoke the crowd over there, provoke all the citizens. Then after that, what happens is he informs all the citizens about a parchment with the seal of Caesar that he had found in his closet. And he told that if you read this will, you will go mad with respect and admiration for Caesar. But he refused to read out the contents of the will because he felt he would wrong the honorable men who had done that act. And that is what provoked the crowd. They said, how can you call them honorable men? They are traitors. They have defied all the laws and regulations, and they have done a heinous deed by killing Caesar. And so what does Antony do next? He does not read out the will immediately. He takes them down. He further provokes them by showing them the various bruises in Caesar's body. He shows where Casca's dagger had gone in. He shows where Brutus had made his mark, where Brutus had hit him. And he further provokes Caesar to such, further provokes the audience and citizens to such an extent that they want to seek retribution. That's what we come R. That means retribution or revenge. But what are those contents of the will? There are two things basically. The first one is 75 drachmas, the currency at that time. 75 drachmas for each and every citizen living in Rome. That's a lot. And for each and every citizen he has given it, right? And on the other side of Tiber River, that means on their side of Tiber River, all his private harbors and gardens were meant for the public. And anyone could, once he died, that was after he died now, it was open for everyone. And that was like the last nail in the coffin. From then on, the citizens decided that they will go and seek revenge. And they will go and kill the conspirators. So this is how Mark Antony very, very tactfully plays this whole story out and gives a fabulous speech. And this is actually a lesson in oratorship. Now, how the way he has put the blame on Brutus without directly referring him or without directly blaming him, and that is something that he did wonderfully well. So after that, Antony sits along with Octavian Caesar, whose name actually changes after that. It becomes Augustus, and he becomes the first ever king of the Roman Empire that is formed later. So he sits along with him, they discuss about the plan to prevent certain actions in the future, and ultimately both Cassius and Brutus, they commit suicide, and they are defeated in battle. So that's how the play ends. But it was indeed an intriguing play, and I'm sure you enjoyed reading it. And I hope this explanation was helpful. The acronym was helpful for you to remember the sequence of events. If you like this video, do like it. If you feel that you must share it and others must also get to know this valuable piece of information, do share it and do subscribe to my channel as well. Thank you.